Hello, welcome back to the Mobile Motorbike Mechanic channel. I'm Steve. Today we're heading back over to Tamworth to complete the R1 that you'd seen a couple of videos ago. We've got the new generator with us, so yeah, we'll go and get that fitted, so we'll see you when we get there. Right, so here we are back with the R1. We've got it back on the pallet stand, we've pulled it all apart. We're just about to take the case off. So, let's get back down here and get this case off. Because obviously we sealed it up because we didn't want to leave the customer with an open engine. There we go. So that's pretty much where we got to last time. So we've got the replacement generator, so we'll go and have a look at that now. Right, so this is the old generator. If you have a look in the middle of that, you'll see that all the magnets were individually placed. And this is the new generator, and as you can see, it's all one piece, completely different design. So this is the one that we're going to be putting in. This one, that's just scrap and going in the bin. So yeah, let's reassemble that with the starter drive gears and all the rest of it onto the back of this shaft. This is your crank drive gear, and this is your starter sprag clutch. As you can see, it only turns one way, and you've got a little cush drive on this side with 3 cutouts, and they represent those, they match those 3 cutouts on the back of the new generator. So when you put it in, just be careful that that spacer doesn't come out, and you can feel it index, and you need to push it all the way down so that that gap there closes up completely. So once that's on, there's a rather large washer that goes on, and then the final piece is this bushing. Now if you look at this bushing carefully, you'll see one side's got a chamfer on it and the other side is flat. So the chamfer goes in like that, and it matches. You'll see where it matches because there's a chamfer on the shaft itself. So it matches on that. Okay. So that's your generator assembly and your sprag clutch for your gear, for your starter motor, all reassembled. So we can get that now back in the bike. Right, so we've got our generator assembly. Now what we need to do is we need to line up on this starter idler gear here. So this gear, the middle one, goes onto your sprag clutch, and this is your crank, and that's going to line up with this one, and the end of your shaft is going to go into this bearing here. So we've got to line up that and that all at the same time. Bit of a faff, especially because that can rotate as well. But yeah, you just got to work at it, but make sure you don't lose that spacer and that washer off the back. So make sure they're all nicely pushed on, nice and tight. Right, wish us luck. It might take a couple of attempts to do it. All you're doing is lining everything up, he says. I say it can be a bit of a bugger to try and line it up first off. You might even need a bit of torchlight just to, yeah, I'm going to go grab a torch just so I can see inside there and see where the bearing is. A bit of faffing about. Alright, that's in the bearing, and that's on the crank, but it's very, very difficult to see. But if you look in there, you'll see that the sprag clutch isn't lined up with the starter idler. Now what you might think is, oh, that's home, reassemble it, and when you put your case on and wind your case in, you'll snap that gear at the back. So what you've got to do is you've got to get in there with your finger and just remember it's a sprag clutch, so it will turn one way, and eventually it will go a little bit further. It needs to go about another sort of 10 mil. I think this face needs to line up with this face, and as you can see, they're not lined up at the moment. So it's just, I say, it's awkward, but you can do it. There we go. Right, so that's the gear lined up, and watch that face line up with that face. There we go. Lovely, nice and flush. So that is now properly located. We're nice and flush at the front. Right, we're all good there. So what I need to do now is I need to clean this face off, ready for the new gasket. As you can see, the old gasket's on there, and that's not gonna seal. So we'll clean all that face up, and then we can fit the rest of the parts together. Yeah. Right, so we've got that gasket surface all nice and clean, all the old gasket off there, so that's ready to go. Now we need to turn our attention to the stator coil here. We need to get the old gasket off here, and we need to replace the stator coil. So 8mm for the clamp that holds the wiring in, and I think it's a T30 Torx bit to undo the 3 bolts that actually hold the stator coil in. So we'll get all that lot apart. We'll clean that surface up, and then we can start thinking about getting the new coil in and getting it all back together again. That's not going to come undone. Oh, it is going to come undone. Yamaha love their Loctite. Nope. God damn it. Problem is holding this, because it's a regular shape, and holding it in such a way that you can not slip on the bolts. There we go. It is awkward. It is very awkward. Right. That one's just being a pain. The trouble is you can only slip a couple of times and then you're going to start chewing the head up of the bolt. So you've got to be careful. Come on. Whew. They were in there. What a pain. But the good news is we've got all 3 removed. Right, now it's just a question of releasing and pulling, and that's your old stator gone. When we come to fit the new stator, you'll see that there's 2 pins and there's a detent, so it does actually lock in on these 2. But what we'll do, we'll clean this surface up now, make sure it's all nice and shiny, ready to go back together again. That one can go in the bin, and we've got a brand new stator coil to fit. Right, so we've got our brand new stator coil there. We've got our cleaned up engine cover. One thing is, if you're going to be throwing any sort of cleaner into this cover to wash out the bits of gasket that have come out, just be careful. There is a bearing inside there which is accessed from these. So yeah, there is a bearing inside there, so don't wash in there deliberately and pull all the oil out and then it will run dry. Obviously it will get oil back in it, but just be careful of it. Right, so fitting the new stator coil. On the back of the stator coil, on the reverse side of it, we've got 2 additional holes. Okay, and those 2 additional holes you fit onto these 2 pegs. So it can only go in one location, he says, just like so. So it can't fit, you know, it's not gonna rotate in any other way. So just be aware of that when you come to fit it. And then we can put the wiring in like so. And we've got a bit of high temp instant sealer, instant gasket, and we're only going to use that on this rubber bit on the grommet where it passes through the case. And we've also got some thread lock for the bolts. So we've got the 3 mounting bolts for the stator, and you've got the plate that holds the wiring in place. So right, we'll crack on, get all that together, and then come back to you in a second. That's all those 3 snugged down. Good stuff. So now we just need to sort out the wire clamp bolt. Just run my fingernail around the thread just to get rid of the excess old thread lock. Got a bit of new thread lock on. Just when you put this, when you put that cable clamp in, just make sure it goes over the detent. So you're all good. Right, so bit of instant gasket on the back of this grommet. We'll fit that in there, and then we're ready to throw the whole mess onto that. A little bit of instant gasket. You don't want much. You just want to smear it around. And then I'm just going to push that into its home, just like that. And that is ready to install. What I've forgotten to do, that'll probably pop out of there. Yeah, there it goes. One thing I've forgotten to do is put the gasket on. Just going to use the tiniest amount of instant gasket just to hold that there. There we go. Just to hold it in place so we can get the bolts in when it comes to it. Right, so new stator and everything else ready to go. Now when this goes on, obviously big magnet, big lump of metal, that is going to want to pull out, and we don't want that to come out. So we're going to have to do this in kind of like one fluid motion, because if that comes out of there, then it disengages with all the gears at the back and everything. So we want to get everything ready to go, offer it up and drop it in one go. So wish us luck. There, done. One fluid motion. Right, let's get some let's get some fasteners into that, get it all back together again. That's one, that's two, so because this bike's got the crash protection on it, we've got to fit that. Go. Almost missed that one there. There we go. So as usual, whenever you're doing one of these cases up, don't go mad on one corner and then try and pull it across. You want to make sure that it's all snugging down nicely. And in fact, this doesn't look like it is snugging down nicely. It looks like it's proud at the top here. Because if you look very, very carefully, zoom right in, you can see the gaskets flicking. So just go steady. Right, that gasket's looking better now. Because remember, the end of that generator had to go into that bearing, so if that was off at all and you pull it down, you might crack this case. As always, go steady, go easy, it'll work. Alright, I'm happy with pulled the case down nicely, so now I can start tightening stuff up. And that last one, that's the engine bolt. So you might not have these particular fasteners on yours, because this is where the crash bung goes in. Bit of cable routing, got to get the airbox back apart to get into where the regulator rectifiers mounted, and then we can get all of this fairing back on again. So let's get that all sorted out. Did that go through there? I can't remember. I'm sure it did. Cable routing wise, we're through there. And then we're up. So it's got to go up the side of the airbox there until we get into where the regulator rectifier is. Just quickly whack the fairing back on again. And whenever you take a fairing off, remember when you put it back on to reconnect the indicator. So that's all back together again. So we'll just get this airbox apart, and then we can get down to the regulator rectifier that's underneath it. There's the lid, and we should have left all of this lot loose. Oh no, there we go. Right, so one regulator rectifier. So we're going to be replacing that one. But first things first, we need to get this bit of wiring up into the airbox. So let's get all that out of the way, and we can route this one up the side here. Be careful not to trap it in the throttle body, and we need to get this panel out to get it through that hole there. I don't know if you can see there's a hole there, but there is a hole just there, and that's where that wiring's got to go through. So we need to take this panel out quickly. Right, and we've got, no, they're 4mm, not 5mm. Right, so you've got these two here, one there and one right there. Pull that one out, and we can pull that panel out, and you can see there is the cutout where that wire has got to go through, just like that. And we can put the whole lot back together again. Just once we've sorted that out, there, just like that. Like I say, you've got to be careful of this one on the throttle body. Just push them over to one side, and that's it. Right, let's get that. Oh, actually, no, before I get that fitted, we're going to get the new regulator rectifier, and it needs to bolt down onto these two bolts here. So whip those out, and we'll get the new rectifier plugged in and bolted on. Right, brand new regulator rectifier. So black plug to black plug, and you hear the click, grey plug to grey plug, and again, now there was a click there, and then the whole lot goes in. It's a bit of a bugger to get in, but the whole lot basically goes in and goes down onto two mounting bolts just there. Now we've got a bolt in our pocket. There's one. Once you've got him started, just grab a socket, hang on, there he is. Yeah, once you've got him started, you can then grab the next bolt and try and find where it goes. Right, so there's a bit of a pain getting in there, hand access and what have you, a bit restricted, but you can do it, obviously. And then once they're started, you just need to nip them off. Right, so now we can fit up, put that clip in. I'll put the clip in, there you go. And we just need to again make sure that's not going to catch on that throttle body. Right, okay, we'll get this secured and then we can get the airbox back in again. Right, so we're all in there, we're all happy with where the wire's routing through. We've checked to make sure it's not hitting this throttle body again. So now we can get the airbox back in. Right, so when we go to fit this in, we've got this connector, but we've got this tube. This is the one that's the pain to get on. So you'll get it most of the way and then you won't be able to get it any further because of the clip. So pull the clip down a little ways, get the tube on. There we go, he's all the way home. Make sure he's all the way up against the top of the airbox there. So you can see he's all the way up onto the airbox. and then you can pop the clip up. Nice and easy. Right, and then we need to reattach this this wiring connector, which is a bit of a bear because the other end's down here. But we can do it, just. So, sort of wiggle the airbox down into position. It gives you just enough lead to connect that together. And again, wait for the click. Right, that's that one done. Right, so with those two connections out of the way, we've got one final one here on the back of the airbox. But because we're going to be pushing up to fit that in there, I'm going to secure the airbox first, and then we can come back and fit that one in a minute. That's nice and secure. And now we can start running the bolts in. And as with anything, make sure you've got all the bolts started at least before you begin tightening them up. You definitely do not want to start cross-threading these ones, because they are into the throttle bodies themselves, and if you cross-thread them, well, you don't want to know how much a new set of throttle bodies costs. Right, now the airbox is nice and secure, we can fit this hose on the back of it with a good shove up, and we've just got to get that clip all the way up. There we are, nice and tight, sorted. Right. Ooh, these K&N filters are a bit of a, oh, there we go. I was going to say they're a bit of a bugger to get in normally, but he just went straight in. And then airbox lid back on. Right, we'll fire the screws in, and then we'll see whether or not this one is charging. Right, so when the bike's running, we should be 14 and a half volts, something like that. Anything over sort of 13 volts is good. Anything over 15 volts is probably bad. So we're running about 12 at the moment, obviously 12 volt system, 12 volt bike. So we'll go for a start, let's see what we get. Right, so with our little handy dandy test meter there, you just saw the bike was running at 14.2, 14.3 volts. What we also did was we increased the revs to make sure it wasn't overcharging as the revs came up. That proves the regulator part of the rectifier is working nicely. So all we need to do on this bike now is drop the seat back on again, and we can hand it back to the customer. Drop us a comment if this has happened to your bike, or if you know anybody who has had this happen to their bike, and feel free to share this video to anybody who's got an R1 or an FZ1N or an FZ8, I think, as well, possibly even the 6s. I know they do suffer with this generator issue. So anyway, remember, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you again on the next video.